I have ranked many things in Project Zomboid, but I haven't yet ranked all the new skills that came in build 42. So today we're gonna be ranking that. And instantly as I said that, my dog was like, I ain't listening to this, let me out on the balcony, so I had to step up and do that. But I'm not redoing my intro. Anyway, we are ranking Project Zomboid skills now. There's been a lot of them added in build 42. So we're gonna be looking at that, we're gonna be looking at how important they are when you start the game and how important it is to get them as high as possible and what kind of benefits you get from that. So let's begin. Now we're gonna start with combat skills, and first we got aiming. Aiming has always been great. If you got it as high as possible, you became an unstoppable murder machine, and that kinda still counts. Even though at the start of build 42 there's been some balancing issues and it wasn't as perfect, but now again I feel like aiming is great. The way they fixed it, it works really well. You will feel very powerful if you get it higher and higher and higher up, and I feel like it's still an amazing skill no matter how many zombies you play against. If you're playing on like low population or high population, if you're good at aiming, you got enough ammo, you will destroy everything. So aiming 100% an S tier skill. Next we then have reloading, that of course pairs with aiming. I don't think it's nearly as important to go as high up as aiming is, because even let's say if you're somewhere in the middle like level 5, your reloading will be very fast. Also it's very easy to level, at least initially, because you can just grab one magazine and just reload it before you go to sleep a couple of times and repeat that every day and you're gonna get free levels. So it's not really hard to level. Yes, it takes a lot of time to level at higher levels, but you don't really need them. So we're gonna go middle of the tier with reloading, B tier. Now let's go to the melee combat skills, shall we? First we have Axe. Axe is like one of the favorites of everybody who plays Project Zomboid. It's like an iconic weapon that you can use in a zombie apocalypse. But I feel like it's slightly worse than it used to be now, because the durability loss is different. The sharpness loss feels like it just happens all the time, and you have to sharpen your axes and you're gonna just lose durability much faster than it did before. So I feel like it's worse than it used to be. If you go high with the skill, you'll do tons of damage, you're gonna destroy zombies, you're gonna be doing a lot of damage, but it's quite a heavy thing. And now with muscle fatigue, you can get fatigued pretty easily from an axe, so maybe go with a hatchet, especially early on if your character is not that strong. But in general, I feel like it's not as good as it used to be, so I'm gonna put it out here into the B tier. Then we go to long blade. This used to be just machetes and katanas, which were very rare weapons, so it wasn't really that useful of a skill because most people never even got to use it, right? Now I feel like there's way more weapons that use long blade because you can craft them, and more people will get to find these weapons or craft these weapons and use these weapons. So long blade became a more important skill. Of course, katanas are still like one of the best melee weapons, but they do lose durability pretty fast and do break pretty fast. So I feel like having this as a high skill is great, but chances are you're rarely gonna use it, or you're gonna just be saving these katanas or machetes for like very hard hordes or something like that to deal with, and not actually be able to level up as much. We're gonna put this somewhere in the middle of the tier as well, and we're gonna put it out here into B next to the axe. Then we go to long blunt. Long blunt is my personal favorite, so I always rank it higher probably than some other people would. Of course, as you level it up higher, it deals more damage, etc, etc. Pretty much all the weapons do that. The good thing about long blunt is the weapons are pretty plentiful and easy to get, and what is most important to me personally over bladed weapons is the durability of these weapons is often much higher, and they don't lose sharpness because, well, they're blunt. Also, you don't destroy clothes, which I know is very important for a lot of people, so long blunt for me goes up to into A tier. Then you go into short blade. I know there's a section of people who really love short blade and they will not use anything else but short blade, but I still feel like out of all of the melee weapons, if you're a starting player, short blade is gonna get you killed the easiest of all them. Because one thing is the animation lock that you get locked in when you get the one stab hit. That wasn't the case in like build 40 and before, but that's a long time ago anyway. And these weapons, while they are pretty common. They also break pretty fast, especially if you don't find like combat knives or hunting knives or something like that, you know, and if you're just using kitchen knives and stuff, they're not gonna have much of a durability. But if you're an expert player, you will probably get a lot of use out of these because stamina loss is very low in these. So I still feel like they are the worst for beginners out of all the weapon types, so we're gonna put it out here into the C tier. Then we go into short blunt, which I still think is pretty good. Just like long blunt, these weapons are hardy, they're plentiful, you're gonna get a ton of use out of them, and you'll find a lot of them. You're never gonna be like, oh, wish I had a short blunt weapon. Well, oh no, there it is. And there's another one, and there's another one. You can just find them and use them. And if you have a high skill, you will never, ever run out of these weapons. So these are very good, especially if you use them as a secondary. These are amazing. I feel like we'll put them up here into A tier. Then we go to spears. That's kind of another weapon you can barely ever run out of because, well, if you just make wooden spears, there's more trees than you will ever be able to chop in your lifetime or gather sticks or something like that. So you can have a lot of spears. Unfortunately, at low levels, they break really easy. You won't be able to use them a lot. But later on, when you get better at them, they'll last you a bit longer. And of course, you can attach stuff to them. And of course, you can now make better spears anyway. So spears, I feel like they're great, but not early. You have to be able to survive for a long time. And they're also like great horde killers because you can just go fight a big horde with like a stack of 20 spears in your backpack. That works pretty well. What I don't like about them, and I feel like this will also get newer players skilled, is the animation lock, because sometimes even though there's a nearby zombie, they will lock you into animation which they shouldn't, and that nearby zombie will be then able to get to you and scratch you or bite you before you can get out of the animation, which shouldn't happen, but sometimes does happen. So these are dangerous, but still very good. We're gonna put them out here into B tier. Now, last of the combat skills, which isn't really a combat skill, is maintenance. Maintenance skill basically makes the durability of all your weapons higher, or well, they will last you longer the higher your maintenance is. So maintenance is one of those stats you really want to get as high as possible. It's not easy to level up though, but now it is also used in some crafting recipes, so you can also use that, and well, you will need it to craft some stuff and of course repair your weapons and such. But having high maintenance is amazing. Your weapons will last longer, especially if you're using like bladed weapons like axes or long blades or something like that. You will definitely want higher maintenance. I feel like it's a very important skill. We're gonna put it up here into A tier. Now we have crafting skills, and first on the list is blacksmithing, which is brand new to build 42. It is a long, convoluted process to get anywhere high enough that you'll get any worth out of it, but if you stick to it, you will be rewarded by basically be able to make any tool, any weapon, and a bunch of metal armor, which, to be honest, probably you don't need, but for tools and weapons, it's amazing. It's basically one of those skills that if you can get it up high, if you put the points into it, or if you put the time into it, you will be very much rewarded. So I feel like having this up high is really great. It's probably not going to be as useful to newer players that are still trying to survive, but this is one of the crafting skills, so we're gonna rank them as crafting skills. And out of crafting skills, I feel like this is straight up A tier. Then we have carpentry. Carpentry was always one of the best crafting skills because, well, it allowed you to build everything you needed to survive long term, from barrels to stairs to escape up high from zombies, and composters and such, walls, everything. If you get it higher, of course your walls will be sturdier. It's still one of the easier ones to level up. Just need books or just read books and it will go easy. But now you do have stuff like masonry and such that kind of competes with the whole building aspect of it, but it's still the easiest one if you want to just build a shack or something like that. Still a great crafting skill. I'm gonna put it out here into B tier. Next on the list we have carving. Carving basically makes you wooden tools or tools out of wood and such, and you can also make weapons at the highest level. I think like you have to be level 9 to make baseball bats, and at that point you can make infinite baseball bats, but you do need to get there at some point. It's gonna take you quite a long while, and at the start it's not really gonna be very useful crafting skill to have. I feel like this one is probably the most useful if you're going for something like wilderness survival, if you're not living and looting towns. But I feel like most newer players will not try to do that, so I'm not sure if it's that great of a skill. We're gonna put it out here into C tier. Then next on the list we have cooking. I personally value cooking a lot because you will get more nutrition out of your meals at higher levels. And at level 7 you can actually use rotten ingredients in your meals, which means you can never really run out of food, even though they're terrible nutrition wise anyway. But I feel like cooking is great. More people should use cooking. It's still not one of those skills that are like, oh, I really need this high up to actually survive. No, you don't really need to, but it's great if you have it. So middle of the tier, we're gonna put it in a B. Next on the list we then have electrical. Electrical is great at lower levels, but getting it high is really not important. At level 1, it allows you to start hot wiring vehicles if you have mechanics level 2 as well. So getting that 1 level is extremely important. Then if you want to grind, and it's a slow grind even if you read books, at level 3 you can then move electrical appliances like electrical ovens and such. And washing machines, yes, washing machines is what I wanted to say. Also at level 3 it allows you to operate generators, so that is useful if you can never find a magazine, but probably before you ever get to level 3 you'll find the magazine, so don't worry about it that much. Still feel like it's one of those that at early levels it's useful, beyond that really not, so we're gonna put it out here into C tier. Then we have another new skill in build 42, which is glass making. I guess this one really hasn't been properly introduced into the game. Maybe they want to add more to it. As it stands, you can make glass bottles and mirrors and such. Actually, nothing that will allow you to survive for longer. So for Project Zomboid, this is an F tier skill and you really don't need to put any points into it or ever really try to level it unless you're surviving for years and you want to try something new. Next, then we have napping. If you want to take a good nap in a forest, well, maybe that should be it. Anyway, jokes aside, this allows you to make stone tools and weapons, so it's great for wilderness survival. Otherwise, you're probably not going to be using it. Kinda like carving, feel like slightly worse maybe than carving. Napping, yeah, for wilderness survival great, for anything else not so much. We're gonna put it down here into D tier. Then we go to another new skill, which is masonry. Masonry allows you to build buildings, so walls and such, just like carpentry, but it's out of bricks. And those bricks are of course stronger than whatever you can make out of wood. Now the problem is, even though it's kind of like stronger stuff than carpentry, I feel like carpentry is still much more useful because it's way easier to level, where carpentry, or should I say masonry, is more convoluted and it takes a lot longer, and it just doesn't add as much as carpentry does, where you have like rain collector barrels and such as well. It's decent if you want to build a brand new house, otherwise not so useful. We're gonna put it out here into C tier. Then we go to mechanics. I feel like mechanics is one of the most important skills you can get in Project Zomboid if you wanna go as high as possible with it. The higher you go, the easier it is to successfully uninstall parts of a car and then install them. Basically, you're gonna be traveling the world in this game, so you're gonna need a car. You'll want a car because it's a big world, so that's definitely a very useful skill to have. And you know, the higher you go, you also get the chance to repair your engine and take engine parts from different cars, repair your engine, so it will be going for a longer time. So I feel like this is a really important skill. Of course, you also need to have it at level 2 to be able to hotwire cars, so A tier. Next on the list we have another brand new skill, which is pottery. Pottery basically allows you to make pieces and bricks for other skills like blacksmithing and masonry as such. On itself, not that useful. You are probably not gonna ever be using pottery unless you're trying to focus on, I don't know, building your own house somewhere in the wilderness and crafting your blacksmithing materials. But even then, you just will want to get to a certain level so you can make a thing that you need for another skill. and don't ever really use pottery again. So for that, I don't think it's that useful. We're gonna put it down here into D tier. Next, then we have tailoring. Tailoring, I feel like it's a great skill for newer players who have trouble being like, oh, just don't get hit, which I know to newer players it still happens. They do get hit, they do get scratched, they do get pulled by zombies, and tailoring can actually save your life because this will allow you to add patches to your equipment, and the higher your level, the better your patches. It's actually not that hard to level up. It takes time, yes, but otherwise, you know, especially if you find books, it just needs a little bit of patience and single player, when you can speed time, that goes pretty fast. So I feel like tailoring is an actually very useful crafting skill, which probably most of us who play for a long time and don't really need an additional help to survive, we don't really utilize it as much, but for newer players I think it would be really useful. So we're gonna put it out here into B tier. Then the last of the crafting skills, we have welding. Welding will allow you to actually make metal walls and such stronger than what you can make from carpentry, and at very high levels you can also make a scrap armor. Now the problem it is, which while the scrap armor can be really cool, it's just that it's a cool looking armor that you need to grind so much to ever get to the high skill needed to actually make it, that is just not really worth it. And besides that, pretty much everything you need to grind heavily to make with welding, you can make with carpentry or everything else. So I feel like if you really want to pick something to grind to get high level armor, blacksmithing is definitely much better than welding in that regard. So I feel like welding, not very useful, very grindy. We're gonna put it down here into D tier. Now next we have 3 skills that are now in farming, and the first one's agriculture. At higher levels it will increase the yield you get from crops, and we'll see more information about your crops just by a glance. Now, agriculture, which used to be farming, used to be an amazing skill. It was really easy to set up and get food whenever or wherever, especially where you were able to plant on top of roofs in a safe environment, even indoors. That was great. Now it just sucks. Now you have to hit the right growing seasons, and even if you do hit the right growing seasons, crops might not always work or might just rot the next day if you miss like a day. And basically the whole process, it's very much more akin to real life farming, but this is still a game. And in this game there is now much better other food options that you should pursue, and unless you're trying to survive or unless you're planning to survive and know that you can for years and years, agriculture just not worth it. I'm gonna drop it down here into F tier. Next on the list we have animal care. Animal care basically gives you more resources when you like milk animals or shear them and stuff like that. It's not that useful of a skill. Yeah, I do guess that they will add more to it as they add more animals and they flesh this out in build 42. So at that point this might go higher, but for now I feel like it's just down here in D tier. Then next we have butchering. Butchering basically gives you better cuts. So again, higher yield the higher level you go from butchering animals and filleting fish. So yes, basically meat. Fishing is useful if you find lots of animals out there, which you do. This is pretty useful as well, but it's not something that you will long-term probably rely on, because breeding animals for long-term is still not the easiest thing unless you go for chicken. Chicken are very easy to breed. So it's not the most useful skill, but it's not something you should neglect. So I'm gonna put it down here into C tier. Next we move to survival skills, which as you can guess are pretty important. And well, everyone would think that first aid in a zombie apocalypse really useful. Well, not in Project Zomboid. That is a skill you probably should never ever level up. You will never want to level up because that means you have been hit, and if you've been hit, that means that there's a very good chance you will die because you've been infected. So first aid does not help with infections at all, zombie infections that is. And well, basically here it really tells, just don't get hit. Play the game, fight zombies, even if you die repeatedly, learn how to fight zombies. When you do that, you will never ever get hit again. Then you can explore the whole game, and first aid is just gonna be useless. Unless you're playing with mods like bandits mods, then it's useful because you will get constantly shot, and for that yeah, for that it's useful, but otherwise not really. In multiplayer, especially if playing with more inexperienced players, that can be a fun trait to have or fun skill to have when you can doctor others, but otherwise in single player it's not a useful skill. We're gonna put it down here into F tier. Next, then we have fishing. Fishing is a great source of high calorie food, which for long-term survival is very important because you will need lots of calories to survive. Now, it has been reworked in build 42, and I have to admit I'm not a big fan of the new minigame that has been added for this. I appreciate it when you could just speed up time and, you know, fish that way. For single player, that was great. I guess, yes, for multiplayer, the minigame is going to be much better because previously multiplayer fishing was just horrendously boring, but, you know, something's good, something's bad. Anyway, we're just focused on the fact that you get lots of good calorie food, and it's a pretty easy way to get good calorie food, so this is going to be up here in the B tier. It's pretty useful if you have the skill high. Next, we have foraging. Foraging allows you to find pretty much all kinds of items. There's a meme going on that's been posted on Reddit like years ago where somebody found a car in the forest by foraging at level 10. I still don't believe that actually happened, but basically it tells you that you can really find anything if you're foraging. So foraging, a very useful skill, especially if you're playing more with wilderness survival, but even if you're not, it's always useful because you can find all kinds of good items. So we're gonna put it up here into B tier as well. Then we have tracking. Tracking basically allows you to track animals in the forest, so wildlife. And as it is right now, I feel like it's still kind of unfinished skill. It's probably easy enough to just run into forest and, you know, see where the animals are. If you're playing the game, moving around a certain area that has a forest nearby or driving by, you will eventually spot animals, and you will eventually spot these animals on the same location multiple times. So you will know, okay, that's where the animals are, let's say deer or rabbits, that's where I can go hunt them. You actually don't need tracking. You just don't need this. I guess they will work on it. I guess they will add to it and it's gonna be better. Right now, it's not very useful. We're gonna put it down here into F tier. Then we have trapping. Trapping, basically with higher levels, it increases the chance you will catch animals with your traps. It is a great skill to have for, well, long-term survival, just like fishing, because you're gonna get nice calorie food. Although fishing is better for high calorie because fish do have more calories than rabbits and such that you'll be catching by trapping. So trapping is not as good, I feel like. Higher levels also allow you to make better traps. So if you want to do that, you can do that. But let's say if you live next to a forest and you place down a ton of traps, you will catch a ton of stuff. Now, this used to be much easier when agriculture was easy, so you could get just like unlimited cabbages, so you can use those as bait. Now that's much harder, so I feel like trapping is not that useful anymore because agriculture just got crappier. So I'm gonna put this down here into D tier, but could probably easily be in the C as well. And then finally we have the couple of physical skills which you can guess are very good. First we have fitness. The higher your fitness level, the more you're gonna be able to move around and actually do stuff. The slower your endurance loss, the faster your endurance recovery, all that stuff. You're gonna be able to swing faster, fight for longer because you are more fit. You get it, you know what it means. Fitness is just one of those best traits or best skills to have. It's very hard to level up, so it's important, or it's great if you start with a high skill as well. So even early on, you're gonna be strong and fast, or I guess with fitness fast. Definitely an S tier skill. We're gonna put it up here into S tier for sure. Then we have strength. Strength is basically the same as fitness. You will be stronger, you're gonna be able to fight longer, you're gonna do more damage, your pushback is gonna be better, you're gonna be able to carry more, which is amazing in a survival apocalypse game. And yeah, it's just strength, just like fitness, is great. It's always useful to have as high as possible. Really hard to level in game, especially at the highest levels, So starting with high strength is gonna help you early on, and it's gonna help you in the long term. So we're gonna go up here into S tier as well. Then we go to light-footed, which basically all it does is reduces the sound radius of your steps, which is very useless. Because if there are zombies in the close proximity that they can hear your steps, you should be killing them, not trying to avoid them. And even if you try to avoid them because your light-footed is higher, doesn't really mean anything because they'll just see you. Because they're just, you know, they'll just spot you. Yes, they kind of rework sneaking in this build, but it's still not where, you know, sneaking should be to be actually useful or more useful than actually fighting zombies. Light-footed doesn't really do anything for you. It's an F tier skill and that's where it is. But then we have nimble, which is basically on the other side of the spectrum. This helps you move in combat stance faster. The higher your skill, the faster it goes. It's pretty hard to level up, so if you can actually start with a profession or a skill that will give you something in nimble so you can level it up faster, it's amazing. And every level of nimble you'll get, you will feel it. You'll be happy to have it when you're in combat fighting in melee. So nimble, it's one of those that you really want to have and play with it. To be honest, to me it's one of the most important skills, so definitely S tier. Then we have running. With higher skills you'll be able to run for longer periods of time, and that's about it. Now you don't need to run because you can always outwalk zombies, right? You don't need to run because you can just walk and you will walk faster. Yes, they added sprinters to vanilla now, but nobody that is playing with sprinters is really gonna benefit from this tier list anyway. And if you are a new player, you probably should not be playing with sprinters because you're gonna soon become zombie meat. Running, it's not a very useful skill, but it's decent to have because I personally get impatient lots of times and I run in the game even though I don't really need to, and passively level up running like that. But it's not a skill you should ever be thinking of and thinking, oh, it would be great to have running a bit higher now. It's just a, let's say, C tier skill that you really don't need to consider too much. And last but not the least, or almost not the least, we have sneaking. Sneaking will allow you to sneak by zombies and avoid them that way. That's generally on paper. As I said before, they did rework sneaking in build 42, so it is slightly better. You can actually hide behind cars and zombies will lose sight of you for a second, but the instant you move, they will spot you again. So really, sneaking, not very useful. It is much better to learn how to play the game, learn how to fight, and just beat up zombies, defeat them, and move on. Sneaking past them, leaving zombies behind you is always a terrible idea because you don't know when you're gonna need to retreat. And if you need to retreat the way you came, it's better those zombies behind you are dead. Sneaking past them, never useful, but it's still not the worst skill. We're gonna put it down here into D tier. And that's it for the rankings. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know what would you put into S tier, what you put into F tier, and how bad do you disagree with me putting everything in exactly the wrong spot. Thank you for watching.